Okay, good morning and welcome everybody to this talk, Flow. I will introduce our guest and what we are about to discuss today. My name is Andrea Miconi. I am a IULM professor. I mostly teach media sociology. I'm a sociologist, but in this case, I also used to work with this huge network of universities, and today we will meet the director of UNIMED, Union of Mediterranean Universities, which is Marcello Scalisi. Thank you, grazie Marcello, for being with us. We'll have a short informal discussion. Thank you for your time. We know you are very busy with calls, travels, proposals, and we decided to have an informal talk. So what I would start with is to ask you for a presentation of what UNIMED uses to do. I will put my 20 cents. What is very good, UNIMED is a network of universities, and IULM is part of that network, also officially and speaking. And what is very good about this cooperation from my side is, well, the geographical side, the connection with all countries in north and south of the Mediterranean, which is really bringing us very good opportunities, experiences. And I have to say, I'm a sociologist, so I used to talk with my colleagues, small restricted conferences, and then the students watch. What I really love about working with UNIMED is the general impact that cooperation projects may have actually on society at large, which is very relevant, which is something we very rarely realize as academic, to the point that we need some institutions, for instance, UNIMED in this case, to lead us and to give us this opportunity. So, Marcello, if this is okay for you, I would start with giving you the floor for a short introduction of your role. We decided not to use slides, presentations, and PowerPoints as much as possible because I guess it would be quite boring. We are online, and if we disappear even from the screen, that would be really boring. So, Marcello, thank you again for coming.
Grazie, Andrea. Thank you very much for this invitation and for this opportunity that I really enjoyed from the beginning, because it's an opportunity to present to in some way, a different audience what we do. And obviously, it's important to try to advertise not only the work of UNIMED, but how important is the cooperation among universities in such particular region as the Mediterranean region is. UNIMED, as you said, is a network of universities. We have 150 universities from 24 countries of the Euro-Mediterranean region. We have universities from North Africa and Near East, some universities also from Middle East, from Iraq and Yemen in particular. University from the Mediterranean European countries, from Portugal to Greece, and obviously including several Italian universities. We have around more than 30 Italian universities with us, but also we have French universities, Spanish universities. We have also universities from the Balkan, from Western Balkan, in particular from Albania and Kosovo. And also some university from Northern Europe, from Finland, which is the Tampere University, very active also, in particular talking about journalism, for instance. We started in 1991. This means that this network is more or less a very long story of cooperation in the Euro-Mediterranean region. As probably some of you know, the Barcelona process, which is a fundamental pillar of the Euro-Mediterranean cooperation, started in 1995. Just to mention that UNIMED started before of this important pillar of the European Commission to support cooperation with Mediterranean region. And at that time, at the beginning of our activity, it was a small group of universities, obviously no more than 25 universities at the beginning. And then year per year, thanks to our activity, to our projects, to our obviously conversation with important institutions and important international interlocutors, we are now a huge network, but also we are an important interlocutor of European Commission. We could say a stakeholder of European Commission for the Euro-Mediterranean academic cooperation, obviously only in the framework of academic cooperation. To be very short in this presentation, what we do, this is just to mention the three main areas that we manage to improve our network and also to assist our members. First of all, I have to mention that UNIMED is an independent network. We are not financed by any government, not from the Italian government, not from any European government or from the European Commission in itself. And this is obviously the same looking at countries from the Arab world. We are financed by our members. This is an important information because our members, our university, pay an annual fee, and University of ULM pay the same amount of the University of Tunis, which is not, economically speaking, it's not exactly the same in terms of impact, but these guarantee the same power to all the members. There is no one that could say something different or something more. Obviously, it's not a large amount of money, but it's important for our independence. This means, as first main area for UNIMED, we help our members in terms of how to internationalize more and more, supporting them in looking for opportunities, in knowing other members, organizing training activities, events, and so on. We discuss daily with our rectors, with our director of international relations, and so on. And this is extremely important because this means that we know our members, we know our region, we know their education system in all the Arab countries that belong to UNIMED. The other second main area for us is fundraising. Fundraising, we have a very good example of cooperation in this with ULM, and obviously with many other members, but fundraising is important. Obviously, first of all, it's not so strange to say for budget reasons. Thanks to our projects, we are able to cover our cost, the cost of our staff, and not only. But more importantly, the fundraising dimension is the way to do something concrete among us, with our members, and obviously among members. Because we can discuss about how important is the Euro-Mediterranean cooperation and so on, but if we don't have opportunities to go more in detail in terms of, why not, research in common, capacity building, mobility of students, mobility of researchers, organizing events, and so on, it will be impossible to maintain our relationship. And you know how delicate is the situation in the region. We will discuss later about that from geopolitical point of view, how important could be also the role of the universities in this perspective. And projects could help us to improve this partnership dimension. The third main area is advocacy. We try to push our international interlocutors to pay more attention to the Euro-Mediterranean cooperation. To do that, we organize events. Obviously, we publish our articles. We invite the European Commission to do particular attention to the academic cooperation and not only. And for instance, we organize every year an important event that we called UNIMED Week in Brussels. The next week will be in 3 weeks in Brussels, obviously, which is 3 days of meetings with the European Commission department in charge of the Euro-Mediterranean cooperation. This is the way not only to listen to them and listen what the European Commission is preparing, but also to offer the point of view of our members to share ideas, information, and also, why not, to invite our interlocutors to pay more attention to some particular priorities that probably at the moment that they are considering not so relevant and so on. Is this banal way to say win-win situation, because the European Commission, remaining in Brussels, has the possibility to talk with our members, to talk with people that live in the field. For ourselves, obviously, it's important because we put in contact our members with the European Commission, but also among them with other interlocutors. And for our members, obviously, it's not only a learning process, but it is important because they understand how important is the dialogue with European Commission institution. Because at the end of the day, the European Commission is the only international institution that is able to look at the region as it is. Promoting, obviously, EU values and not in the same perspective of a single government that look at this region in a total different way. This is, obviously, in a very brief modality, what we try to do. We have a lot of projects at the moment financed by European Commission. We have a team of 19 people working here, more or less based in Rome, but some of them are in the region, in some of our countries. And through our staff, we try to maintain, first of all, the network, active and very propositive also to our interlocutors, and supporting our members. And through all this amount of projects, we are able also to have a very nice connection with our members, but also a very important feeling about what is passing in the region. Obviously, looking always at the academic perspective.
Thank you, Marcello. I'll get there in a few minutes because I have a question. I have a few questions about the state of North-South cooperation for a series of reasons you are, well, totally aware of. I have to say the very good part, then I will shortly recall the projects we had together between IULM, the main projects we have together between IULM and UNIMED, which is also, if you allow me, an invitation to anybody in our community, colleagues, professors, researchers, PhD students as well, to actively contact us, because UNIMED is really cooperation with UNIMED is really rich of opportunities. And you were mentioning the 1991 founding of UNIMED, which is interesting, because in 1991 international experience were absolutely rare in Italian academy. And you know that there's a lot of talking in our academy about internationalization, European projects. What is funny is that you have been doing this for 30 years, and people in charge in the universities asking us to get international, they don't have any experience because they didn't use to do that, which is very funny. So for some reason, we have a lack of expertise at both levels, project managers, professors, and blah, blah, blah. And this is why, very shortly, the encounter with UNIMED was really precious for myself as a researcher and as a human being as well. I will recall our main joint projects. The first one was started in 2013, if I remember well. It was a capacity building project. Capacity building is the framework. It's a sort of knowledge transfer. Capacity building in higher education, which means European universities and other organizations have to team up in order to transfer knowledge and help universities from the south side of the Mediterranean to, let's say, modernize higher education through the implementation of the Bologna process, which means the CTS system, setting up the labs. The first project was called IMedia, and it was about it was about setting up a master in cross-media journalism in 3 Tunisian universities. That was the beginning of our cooperation in Tunisia, and we were in charge for the design of the master. But what has been really difficult in that project was the management and taking together the partners. And we had a beautiful result because if I remember well, the 3 universities got the authorization from the ministry in Tunis for another cycle of 4 more years of the same master, which is, how these projects can become sustainable, which means, going back to what I was saying at the very beginning, this means that there is a social effect. There are young people which are trained, they have the labs which they didn't have before the project. Drawing on that, we had a similar project, and we still have, because due to the COVID-19 crisis, we obviously, everybody asked for an extension from the European Commission, which is called Pages. In this case, we are the coordinator, and IULM is we are the coordinator, and UNIMED is a partner. It was the other way around for media. UNIMED was in charge, and we were partner. And this is about setting up a similar master in 4 universities in Libya. And this has been a really incredible experience and adventure, because you can imagine how complicated things are in Libya, with civil war, with shutdowns, with COVID-19. And then very shortly, we have another project together, which is, I'm proud to be the principal investigator of that. It is an Horizon 2020 project. In this case, it's not cooperation, it's a research project only among European universities, and UNIMED is partner. And it is about the effect of digital platforms on European culture. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be there at UNIMED for the kickoff meeting or another project, which is a strategic partnership project for setting up a sort of prototype of visual media literacy course, which means, obviously, this is a sharp distinction. Obviously, under the different frameworks of the European Commissions, you have cooperation projects, you have capacity building projects, and you have research projects, naturally. And UNIMED is able to manage all of this. We also had some staff mobility projects, but this is the easy part. So I will skip the various things we have done together. Going back, Marcello, are you there? I think abbiamo un problema, credo. Okay, you had the technical issue. Okay, I
imagine.
Okay, I was talking about the projects we had together, but now the state of we had a few projects together. You had, I guess, dozens of projects with the Arab countries around Jordan, Palestine, Morocco, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, Algeria, Kurdistan as well, if I remember well. So you are almost everywhere in that region. The state of cooperation, because obviously, firstly, the Mediterranean somehow has shrunk, because Libya is a war zone, Syria is a war zone, and then there is the other refugee crisis coming from Yemen, and I know you also have a partner for Yemen. So many situations are very dangerous, and Tunisia, as is often the case, is on the edge. And then there's an additional problem, which is the simple fact that the European Commission reduced the budget for this region. Obviously, there are different areas, and the allocation of the budget is obviously decided by the European Commission based on, I guess, strategical and political priorities. So how do you see the next years in the Mediterranean? Beside the fact that we love the Mediterranean, this for sure.
Obviously, thanks, Andrea, for this question. The problem of the budget reduction is not exactly a budget reduction, but a different allocation of the budget. They reduced the budget for higher education in capacity building, but they create a new formula for cooperation. This means that we have to, in some way, to organize our work to try to understand and to follow the indication of the European Commission. I think that at the moment, the priority of the European Commission is, first of all, to support employability in the region, because, as you know, in some countries, 75% of society is made by under 25 years old people. And with a huge problem of employability, which affect then also migration to Europe. And again, the idea of European Commission to support employability, I have to say, is my perspective, is not for the employability in itself, but to reduce migration. Is again with the idea that this is our problem and we have to solve our problem, and not just looking to the region for their own problem. And the second main important information that in some way we can understand from this new document of European Commission and so on, is to define our cooperation in more concrete terms, looking at common problem, common urgent priorities. For instance, climate change, or again, migration, or renewable energy, or water scarcity. It seems that we are not interested at all, that is in particular the work that you are doing, at all about to try to understand what's happened in the Mediterranean societies. And I think that we have to do an extra effort to convince our interlocutors, European Commission, that the cooperation in social science and humanities is extremely important, because after 27 years of the Barcelona process, we still don't know each other, we have to say. And we have prejudice both sides of the Mediterranean. And this is the reason why we insist a lot in doing activity to improve what we say the Mediterranean generation, youth, students in particular, youth researchers, able to understand each other, to understand our differences, because we have differences, and to use these differences as a positive, as a richness, and not as an obstacle. Obviously, this is a long-term process, and it's very, in some way, probably theoretical issues, but we try to be concrete also in this. At the beginning of November, we will organize the first Mediterranean Student Summit. The idea is to invite students from both sides of the Mediterranean to discuss about the university that they want in the future.
What is it, Marcello?
In Barcelona, the University of Barcelona, the 2nd and the 3rd of November. We have some students also from you.
Maybe I will come. It's good. I'll let you know.
Well, you will be obviously more than welcome. We are just listening to them. This event is organized by UNIMED in collaboration, obviously, with the hosting university, the University of Barcelona, but more importantly, with also the Erasmus Student Network that will help us in this exercise. At the moment, is a pilot initiative. We will have with us 25 students from 13 countries. It's the first edition. The idea is to have this event every year as a student event, obviously larger. I hope next year to have 100 students with us, and to encourage the students to have an international conversation on. This is particularly relevant for those students that don't have, unfortunately, the right space of dialogue inside their own university or in their own country. Depends by the country where they live, of course. And then to answer to the most important part of your question, the situation of the region. We are used to talk about the Mediterranean region, but unfortunately the region doesn't exist. Because every country, they have their own, not only their own problem, their own destiny, but they are not, unfortunately, able to cooperate among them. The southern Mediterranean countries, they prefer to have a stronger relationship with European Union, first European Commission, of course, and with some of our government, instead to, first of all, to have a framework of cooperation among them to be stronger in front of the international interlocutors. This means that country per country we have different situation. And from political point of view, from stability point of view, from economical point of view. You mentioned some of the crises that we are facing in the region. Libya, and we are discussing, potentially speaking, of a post-conflict situation, but in Libya the situation is very fragile, and until now there is not a balance on the political...
The title of the project is Post-Crisis Journalism in Post-Crisis Libya. It was four years ago. We are still in...
We are still in trouble, in a crisis situation, and very fragile, but the Libyans are resilient enough. They know how to manage it, and they cooperate among them. I mean, the university people, the academic community, they cooperate among them independently where they are based, independently by the political influence that they, for sure, they have. But of course, is a country with a huge potentiality. Of course, is our producer country. I don't have to explain how important it is. A relative small country in terms of population, just 6 million people, more or less, with a huge migrant presence, because we are discussing about 800,000 people as migrants that normally are the worker of that country. But obviously, in such critical situation, they, in some case, they think also to leave the country, to move to Europe. And Libya, we are working a lot in Libya. After 7 years, we have several projects with Libya, and I think that is could be something very important, because it's a newcomer of international cooperation, obviously for the historical situation, and they could play an important role in the medium term if the stability will arrive. But there are a lot of external players in the country, from European Commission itself, Italy, France, but also more importantly, Russia, Turkey, and Egypt. And these create obviously a lot of problems to arrive at the end of this crisis. I would like to underline also another potential risk situation, and I think that we have to do something to support academics in this country, which is Lebanon. In Lebanon, the situation is really dramatic from political point of view, but more importantly from economic point of view. The youth generation is trying to leave the country, but also the academic community is trying to leave the country. And this is obviously, it's a huge problem for the future of this country. And I think that in Lebanon, that was our hope in some way, because it was the only country where different political framework were in some way managing the situation, managing the government differently than
also the coexistence of religions, which is
exactly
not something you can take for given.
But the coexistence of religion is related to the political issues, because looking just at the coexistence of religion, there are many other cases that we could consider. 20% of aged population is Christian, for instance, with some problems, as you know, but it's there. And in Palestine, we have Palestinian Christian, and so on. This is quite common, in not like in Lebanon, but quite common. But the political division in the country, which is, there is not just one political party like in some country. And so there are many actors, and they try to maintain a balance. But could collapse, and this could be a huge risk for them, first of all, but also for the region. We don't know about the future of Syria. The Israeli-Palestinian situation is still there, could remain the status quo for years, or could collapse again, and we could start to have another conflict in the region. I don't have to mention in particular the Gaza situation. Tunisia, you mentioned correctly Tunisia, that is, the economic situation is really dramatic with a weak political stability. The change of the constitution is very under discussion, that create also some other turmoil. Don't forget about Algeria. Before COVID, there was a protest movement made by youth, in particular university people, that was during the COVID stopped thanks to the COVID. And there was the change of the presidency and so on. But this could come back in a moment. This means that the region is really complicated. But at the same time, there is an important and academic community, not only rich of students, but also rich of tradition, and with some excellencies that exist, but also with a lot of support that they need. And our role as network, but also as university people, is to offer what we can do to improve the quality of their education system, to try to offer some solution to the youth to remain, why not, in the country, or to move abroad, to come to Europe, or to go everywhere in the world. It's not an issue from my perspective. But it's the only answer that we could offer to such particular critical situation. Of course, if the European Commission from many, many years, probably from the beginning of the Constitution of the European Union, decided to have a policy on neighborhood country, to have neighborhood countries stronger, stable, economically well developed, it means that we need neighborhoods that are obviously in a very good situation. Unfortunately, the situation is not good, and probably the European Commission policies failed during all these years. And I think that it's surely important that the academic community, the avant-garde of the society, should continue to work for improving our relationship with our partners in the region. And why not also to find a way to be not only to transfer capacity from the north to the south, but to work as a partner for common possibility and common activity. One example, the European Commission is investing a lot in Africa, of course. Again, the main reason is to fight against migration. And this means that to fight against migration, the idea is to develop those countries, which is in some way correct. But you can imagine how we could be stronger if we act in a sort of triangulation. European universities jointly with North African universities for the benefit of sub-Saharan universities. Because at the end of the day, the North African universities are surely in a better position than the African ones. They are sub-Saharan African universities. In using this formula, this means that we work jointly for the benefit of our region, the Mediterranean region, but more importantly to Africa, but as a partner and not as the European in a sort of new colonialism way, transfer and giving gift to the North African and Near Eastern universities.
Yeah, sure. Cooperation should move to the next level. We cannot be forever the knowledge transfer I was mentioning. There are many things in your discourse I'll add couple of things myself. You were saying something about European common culture, what we have in common, what we do not have in common. You know that this is really a dream for me, because the Horizon 2020 project we have together is about what Europeans have in common from the standpoint of media studies, which means, well, is it common for a Spanish to listen to a German song? It's not. Is it common for Swedish to watch, I don't know, a Greek TV series? Usually it's not. I would really love to have the same proposal and the same project at the broader level in the Mediterranean. I'm really checking all the calls and waiting for the right one, because that would be really beautiful. At the cooperation level, and very practical, this is connected to the last part of your speech about the necessity of involving South Mediterranean universities as main players, not simply as recipients of these, let's say, budget, money, equipment, and so on. What seems to me it's very difficult is, with this respect, the South-to-South cooperation, which means cooperation only goes one way, from the European Commission to the academy universities in that country. Well, obviously, we are grown-ups. We know how things work. Obviously, this is where the money comes from. So it's normal for everybody to look at, to ask Brussels for money. I do the same as an Italian, so no problem. But which is the state of this South-to-South cooperation? Is there any perspective, in your opinion, or it's still not the case?
Unfortunately, it's not so well developed. First of all, because they don't have any institution in common, except for some organization under the umbrella of the Arab League, but is not able to manage concrete initiative.
Sorry, it's the Association of Arab Universities, that one? No.
Yeah, the Association of Arab Universities, but there are many other organizations that could promote something on this. But for instance, they could have a sort of Arab mobility program, the Erasmus in the Arab formula, for instance, but unfortunately they are not able to do that because they don't have, I don't know, probably the volunteer. They don't have the budget to do that. They don't have an institution that try to coordinate all this. I tried several times to invite our universities to push their own government to start with at least a pilot project, as it was for Erasmus Plus 30 years ago, for Erasmus Mobility Scheme 30 years ago. We started in Europe with a small group of university countries and with a small amount of students, very, very scarce, very limited. And now we have a 300,000 students per year in Europe that have a mobility opportunity in their own academic path. I think that the South-South cooperation is related to the fact that they don't have any, I mean the government, they don't have any interest to improve this dimension. We continuously try to do that, to push for that, because we are convinced that through the Erasmus experience in Europe, because we started with mobility at university level. After mobility arrived the cooperation among universities, because to do mobility you need to discuss with your colleagues on the other side of the other country, to share information, blah, 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 and so on. And after the mobility of youth, business arrived. And we create the European citizenship through the Erasmus program. Because there are a lot of families that now, thanks for the mobility of the students, they know another country, they visited another country, or there are now, obviously, Europeans that are not in their own native country, working, studying, doing life normally, and so on. This is, I think, the way to create this regional dimension that unfortunately still in the Mediterranean, except for some blah, 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 unfortunately, still it's not possible to have. They could copy and paste the Erasmus program, but it's not easy, unfortunately, for the political obstacles, and because, unfortunately, education, and higher education in particular, is not a priority. Once they discuss about their own priority, they have many other. This is reasonable on one side, many other priorities. But if you want to develop your country, you have to invest first in research and in education. Otherwise, you just do education, but not on a very high level. We will continue to do this. It seems that next year there will be a Euro-Mediterranean Ministerial Conference on Higher Education. And I hope that in that occasion also Southern Mediterranean ministers will agree on the idea that they have to improve cooperation among their own country. We did an experience some years ago, a couple of years ago, before the COVID, of mobility among Maghreb students. Some Moroccan went to Tunisia and vice versa, and also with Algerian and so on. And was extremely enriching for the students. At the beginning, they were skeptical because what I have to do from a Moroccan perspective, why I have to go to Tunisia to study? I want to go to France, I want to go to Italy or to UK, why I have to go to Tunisia? Then they had these experiences and they were totally crazy about and totally happy, of course, about what they did, knowing other people, understanding, for instance, that the Arabic that they are speaking is not exactly the same, and they have some way also, they find some obstacles on this that was enriching them in their own cultural dimension, but also how familiar they are in their own culture and so on. Mobility is always a learning process, and I think that we have to encourage this dimension because they don't have to look just at Europe as a solution of their own problems, but we have to look at the international dimension as an opportunity, independently if it's Europe or if it's another African country or if it's Asia and so on. To give to the students this international perspective is only possible if we offer them as much as possible of international opportunities. This is what we try to do, and this is the reason why we created this Mediterranean Student Summit, which is the name is probably too much for this first edition, but is to give the important priority to the students.
Good luck with that. Maybe my last question. Thank you again for being with us. The very first word you used today is independent. We are independent. So my question is, well, how important is it, and how you manage this independence and autonomy when it gets to the relations, for instance, with Brussels and the European Commission and the directorates and all the people you know in Brussels? You were talking about advocacy. We could even use the word lobbying, which means pushing institutions for legally getting to some results. And then you work with universities. In some countries, universities are quite influential political subjects, and I know you deal with rectors and presidents and the ministry as well. And in some countries, for instance, in Jordan, independence basically doesn't exist. So I was wondering how important and how you manage this independence when it gets to, let's say, properly political relations you have. Not for a political career, which you do not have, but for the purposes of UNIMED.
And that I don't want in the future. Along all these years of activity in UNIMED, and in particular with the European Commission, I understood that how important is this institution. If you compare the way to dialogue of the European Commission with every single government. I don't want to mention the Italian experiences because probably is an example too drastic. But we represent, and also obviously thanks for what we do and thanks for the large number of universities that we have, but we represent the interest of the academic Mediterranean region in front of our interlocutors. And this has been, from the European Commission institution, very well received, and they need us. This means that for me, the independence of UNIMED is mandatory, because we need to talk without any potential conflict, or we don't have to follow particular rules. We do what we want to do. We talk about what we want to talk. Obviously, we are made by universities. Universities belong to their own ministry. And we have also to follow this very particular situation. We are, for instance, if in some case we don't take a particular position against some government because we respect our members and we don't want to put them in a very uncomfortable situation. But once we talk about the region in front of our interlocutors, European Commission or other, they respect our role, because this is the way to work. Trying to influence them, trying to address our position, dialoguing with them, but in particular saying to our interlocutors what we can do for you from our perspective, what UNIMED can do to improve the participation of our universities in European programs, for instance, or to look for an impact. This is the main role of UNIMED, and this has been very appreciated by the European Commission. We are not just working for ourselves and to have more projects. This is the business dimension, but it's not our main priority. The main priority for UNIMED is to be able to improve the quality of our universities in the region, because this is the answer that the academic community decided through UNIMED to offer to European Commission, but not only. This at national level is totally different, because unfortunately at national level a policy work totally different, and also the dialogue with the institution is totally different. But I think that our independence is more and more appreciated by all our interlocutors, also other important institutions like the Union for the Mediterranean, like also the Association of Arab Universities, and many others players in the region. We have a lot of partnerships with important institutions, more important than UNIMED, because they need us to arrive in the field.
UNESCO as well, no?
UNESCO, Fondation Maison des Sciences de l'Homme, European Investment Bank, FIO, UNHCR, IOM, and many others. Depends which domain we touch. We work on migration, we work on employability, on journalism, on water scarcity, and many other issues. Because as a network and academic network, we can touch, thanks to our members, of course, several domains, because we are not a research institution. The research activity is made by our members, of course. But I think that the most important, at least once I started as director, it was exactly this, to offer to our interlocutors what UNIMED can do, not what this institution can do for us. It's exactly the opposite, because we can do something through our capacity, our members, and we can offer also a perspective. And another thing to mention, another issue to mention, universities, as I said, depends by the ministry. In every country there is you already mentioned the case of Jordan, but there are many others. where the autonomy is not there. Universities are not autonomous at all, or they have some autonomy for some case and so on. But in any case, they represent an important institution in the country. A stable institution with their own capacity, with their own, obviously, policy law to respect. But in any case, there is the most important society inside the university, not only in terms of youth, of course, but also in terms of academic community. And to invest in higher education, cooperation, is something as to invest in the country. If you invest in building, for instance, infrastructure, you are not sure that you are doing the good investments because it depends by many factors. But if you invest in people and institutions like universities, this investment will remain and will produce effect year after year.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. I wouldn't use, well, people use the expression human capital for that, but I prefer to say we work with people, and that's the good part of the experience we have together. So, Marcello, I would have many other questions for you, but I hope next time we'll be together in presence in Milan. We'll invite you for a more comfortable setting and situation. I would ask, well, my advice to anyone is to check what UNIMED does on the website, which is www.uni-med.net, or you Google UNIMED, Union of Mediterranean Universities, and this is the easy way. And thank you to Marcello Scalisi, UNIMED Director, for being with us, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and see you hopefully soon in Milan or somewhere in the region. Ciao. Bye-bye.